everyone, it's me, E. Merry Christmas and welcome back to my channel for a new doll repaint video. Today I'll be repainting this Claudine doll. I repainted her a face a few years ago actually, and I made this little quote-unquote outfit for her too. I think her facial expression is cute, but because of her green streaked hair, I think that she'll make an excellent Christmas doll. So first things first, of course, I removed her old face with acetone. And then after that, her hair definitely needed some love. So to work on that, I used fabric softener, which made it nicer, and I brushed that fabric softener through her hair. This works on all kinds of doll hair, as I understand. You can also use human conditioner, but I just like using fabric softener more. And normally I wouldn't use such fancy fabric softener. This is like all natural Miss Meyer's Clean Day stuff, but that's basically all I had, and it smelled really good, so she got some good smelling hair. This doll came to me secondhand from eBay, so she had already been loved quite a bit, and so it's no surprise that she really needed a little bit of extra help. So I brushed that fabric softener through her hair, and then I trimmed off the scraggly ends of it as well. Then for her outfit, I started with making a little jacket. I'm bad at sewing and I didn't use a pattern, so I didn't show how I constructed the jacket, but considering my very limited skill, I think it turned out well. I put a red ribbon trim on the bottom, and I used this green satin ribbon to trim the sleeves and the neckline. I just glued it on. The rest of her rather regal outfit came from an Ever After High doll. This dress looked to me kind of like something holiday Barbie would wear, and so that was definitely part of my inspiration. I added little gems left over from a diamond painting kit for buttons on the sleeves and on her collar. Now she needs some shoes. I used these Ever After High doll shoes, and I simply painted the gems on them a Christmas tree green. Now time for her antlers. These were very much inspired by Dollightful's Yuliya Repaint doll from a few Christmases ago, as well as her Theia Thriftford doll, but my version is much simpler and uses Crayola paper clay instead of epoxy sculpt or a paper mache. So I simply jabbed into her head with the pointy end of a skewer, and then I used some pliers to snap them off to an appropriate length. This all sounds rather violent, doesn't it? I then worked on sectioning off her hair, because I was going to be using glue to reinforce the skewers, and I didn't want the glue to get on her hair very much. So I separated it into 3 sections and pulled it away with some elastics, as much as I possibly could from the base of the antlers. These little tiny elastics I got from like a Walmart or something, and they're Goody brand. And they're very useful for dolls because they're the perfect scale. But in real life, I think people use them to do like cornrow braids and stuff like that. So they're super useful and very cheap. So if you're going to start playing with dolls or doing doll repaints, I highly recommend getting some of these elastics so you can give your dolls pigtails and ponytails and all kinds of hairstyles. But right now I'm just using it to section off her hair. And here you see I'm using the glue and trying very hard to avoid her hair. After the glue dried, I used my Crayola paper clay to form her antlers. So basically I tried to flatten it out, and then I covered over the skewer with the clay. I also used the clay to form the points on her antlers. Claudine became a reindeer because her ears already sort of resemble reindeer ears. So that's partially why she is in some ways so similar to Dollightful's doll. But Catherine from Dollightful sort of frames a lot of her videos like tutorials, so I figured with crediting her, she wouldn't mind if our dolls were kind of similar. And I think our dolls have different feelings to them as well, different personalities. I actually had a lot of fun forming the antlers. Crayola paper clay is not very sturdy, so that's partly why my antlers are more simple than Dollightful's antlers on her dolls were, because the paper clay would snap too easily if I formed really long and elaborate antlers, so I just did these little points on them. And they're kind of cute. They remind me of like little antler head gear that you would get from like Walmart or something to wear, like a headband. And of course I used some brown paint to cover the antlers, and then I'll add more details a little later on after this acrylic paint dries, which of course doesn't take very long. Acrylic paint dries really fast. It was hard to get down close to the base of the antlers because of course I didn't want to get this brown paint on her hair. Now on to blushing. First, I added some dimension to her antlers with this pale beigey white color. Mr. Super Clear, which is the sealant I use to seal my dolls' faces and stuff in with, it really causes lighter pigments to fade on darker backgrounds or on darker skins. So the lighter patches on her antlers and what you'll see I put on her quote-unquote muzzle, it doesn't show up as much in the final doll. So when I'm doing it initially, it looks quite intense and quite harsh, but in the final product, the white patches or the beige patches on her antlers and on her face fade and don't appear so harsh. And of course, since it's Christmas, she'll get some rosy cheeks. And red lips. Her eyes are going to be quite round and doe-like, which of course is fitting since she's a deer. Now I move on to the second layer. I didn't do too many layers on this doll because I felt pretty good about the saturation, and I used a touch of acrylic paint a little later on to add the final dimension and details. I also gave her a little touch of red on her eyelids for some added warmth. Her eyes are a really dark brown. They're almost black. In real life, I would be quite jealous of that. I love dark brown eyes. I think they're so sweet looking. I gave her nose a little detail to evoke the feeling of a reindeer's nose, but I wanted it to be subtle. I moved on to acrylic paint at this point for the whites of her eyes and some other highlights on her face. I still pull in my pencils to make sure everything looks crisp. Some eye highlights. And then I added this beige color to kind of serve as an inner corner highlight. Then I just finessed a few more details. I added little green highlights to her eyes and tiny, tiny white highlights as well. And then I used one of those diamond painting kit gems to add a little gem to her forehead since she's a princess. Finally, I gloss her up. And fix her hair. I pulled the hair on either side of her face into an elastic behind her head. I kind of twisted the hair. And after I get the elastic secured on there, I add a festive red bow. I used my green satin ribbon to try and hide where the skewer goes into her head, and I just hot glue that directly onto the antler. Then I gave her jingle bell earrings. Since Claudine's ears were pierced before, I figured she could use them. I just secured the jingle bell with embroidery floss. Now, of course, I trimmed away the extra after tying it super tight to make sure it was very secure on her ear. The silhouette of her ears with these jingle bells on almost kind of reminds me of like Minnie Mouse or something like that. I think it's really cute how they jingled. Then I glued on red crystal-like beads for her other piercing. Now just a little primping before the final result. Here she is with a Christmas doll I made last year. I think that they're co-workers. My reindeer princess works with Santa's reindeer, of course, and the little elf girl makes toys. I love how they look as decorations. These are some of my favorite dolls for that reason. I feel like they look really nice on display. Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks again for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making this reindeer girl, and it put me in a festive mood for sure. Have a good one. Bye-bye.